Ever since the Bulls traded away Jimmy Butler during the 2017 draft, it was clear that they were going into rebuild mode. Going into their first season without Butler, the Bulls were not expected to be good as they no longer had an all-star level player, and Zach LaVine was expected to miss about half the season recovering from a torn ACL. Like most people predicted, the Bulls were bad, finishing 27-55 in the season. Despite the bad record though, Lauri Markkanen caught a lot of people by surprise, making first team All-Rookie. Then in the 2018 draft, the Chicago Bulls selected Wendell Carter with their 7th pick. Now going into the 2018-2019 season, the Bulls were looked at as an exciting, up-and-coming young team with Markkanen, Wendell Carter, and Zach LaVine. Although Zach LaVine had a breakout year and Markkanen improved upon his great rookie season, the Bulls won 5 less games, going 22-60. But many people blamed their record on injuries. Zach LaVine missed 19 games, Markkanen missed 30, Otto Porter only played in 15 games, and their rookie Wendell Carter barely played half the season, suiting up for just 44 games. So 2019-2020 was supposed to be the year the Bulls took the next step in many people's eyes. They thought that, if those guys all stayed healthy, that maybe they could make the 8th seed, maybe they could make the playoffs for the first time. But unfortunately for the Bulls, they were bad yet again. And I feel like last season showed that there was more to their losing ways than just injury issues. Jim Boylen was definitely one of the worst coaches in the league while he was with the Bulls. The Bulls were a pretty good defensive team last year, finishing with the 12th best defensive rating in the league. However, with the amount of offensive talent that this team had, it's pretty bad that their offensive rating was all the way down near the bottom at 4th worst in the league. The team looked good on paper, but Boylen refused to stagger LaVine and Markkanen's minutes, meaning that the team was relying on a rookie in Coby White to be their primary scorer for long periods of time, and he was just inefficient and inconsistent, and it's hard to rely on a rookie that heavily, and Jim Boylen did. And then also because Markkanen never got to be the primary option on offense with LaVine out of the game, his numbers were worse this year, and he didn't really get much better. It kind of contributed to that narrative that the Bulls players didn't like Jim Boylen, and I can understand why. Because with Markkanen, he never got the opportunity to really shine in that offense at times, and I feel like he could see his role lessening, and it was just not a good look. But thankfully, the Bulls fired Jim Boylen. I know that the Bulls fans were not necessarily thrilled with the Billy Donovan signing, but I think he's actually going to be good for them. First off, Donovan was a college coach for over 20 years, so he's used to coaching young groups that don't necessarily have players with egos like an NBA superstar might have. This Bulls team is one of the youngest in the league, and while their best player Zach LaVine is really good, he hasn't made an all-star team or even made the playoffs yet in his career. So I think it's safe to say that LaVine probably doesn't have some big ego or feel like he's made it yet. While Donovan's offensive schemes haven't been the most complex since entering the league, a lot of people have criticized him for that. You can't deny that the Bulls' rotations should be a lot better this year. Donovan was great at mixing up OKC's lineups, figuring out how to execute 3-point guard lineups at times last season with the Thunder. This season, I'm sure Donovan will find ways to stagger LaVine and Markkanen's minutes, making the team's offense more threatening throughout the entire game. Most importantly though, the Bulls players are going to respect Donovan. Jim Boylen was unable to get his players to buy into his system because he just wasn't well liked in the locker room. Donovan will be respected by his players, and there's just going to be a better environment in Chicago because of it. I expect Thomas Satoransky to start at the 1 with Zach LaVine, Otto Porter, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter filling out the rest of the starting lineup. Then I think Coby White is going to come off the bench, and he's going to have a similar role to what Dennis Schroeder had last year in OKC, where he's kind of the primary scorer coming off the bench. He'll probably get minutes with the starters as well, and I could see him finishing a lot of games too with the starting lineup. And he's going to play a lot of minutes, probably around 30 or so a game, and he's going to be really, really good for them next year. I expect big things from him. And then the rest of the bench is, they got guys like Garrett Temple, Denzel Valentine, the rookie Patrick Williams. Not too sure how many minutes he's going to get. He's still really young and he's really raw, so we'll have to see. And then they got Thad Young also and Daniel Gafford too at the center. Like I said, Donovan's offensive systems were not the most complex in OKC, But there's a chance that that changes this year in Chicago. When Donovan was with OKC, he was coaching players like KD, Westbrook, Paul George, Carmelo, and Chris Paul. All of these guys have made multiple All-Star games in their careers, and they're used to taking over the offense a lot of times. In Chicago, I could see Donovan trying to create his own culture and implement the kind of motion offense he ran at Florida. The college game, it's a lot different than the NBA game, so the offense wouldn't look exactly the same, but I think we can expect to see a lot of movement, high spread pick and rolls, and less dribbles between passes. I think he'll also do a better job of using Wendell Carter as a passer. I could see Donovan using him in the post or in a lot of horn sets where he can make reads and finding Carter's backdoor. Wendell was used more as a passer during his rookie season, but Boylen went away from that a little bit in his second year in the league, and I think that was a pretty bad decision. Also, by having that high spread pick and roll system, I think it's going to help out Kobe White and Zach LaVine a lot. These guys are both great going downhill, and Donovan's offense could give them a lot of opportunity to do that. And I think the most important thing that Bulls players are going to like most about Donovan is the amount of freedom he's going to give them. When Donovan was in OKC, he said that he wanted his players to be comfortable when they were in the game. Instead of just going off what analytics said, he wanted his guys to take the types of shots that they were best at. Zach LaVine, he's been a pretty good mid-range shooter throughout his career, but last year the Bulls told him not to take them because of analytics. Lauri Markkanen, he was also misutilized last season too. The 2019-2020 season, it was definitely by far the worst season of his career because he wasn't given the freedom to play the way he plays and kind of take the shots that he was most comfortable with. When he was at his best, Markkanen was given the freedom to create his own shot and attack off the dribble in the mid-range, but with Boylen, Markkanen was essentially used as a stretch big, which made the offense less dynamic than it could have been. And having a coach that backs you up and gives you more confidence in yourself and your game, it makes you play even better. So I expect Lauri to have a bounce back year in 2021 and Zach LaVine to have a career high in scoring as well. The Bulls were a pretty good defensive team last year, but they finished 25th in defensive rating in 2018-2019 and 24th the season before that with a lot of the same guys. Billy Donovan's OKC teams finished top 10 in defensive rating all 5 years that he was there, except for one season where they were still 13th. Because I expect the Bulls to play harder for Donovan, I think they'll remain a top 15 defense while also jumping up from the 27th ranked offense last year to around the 17th or 18th best offense as well. Overall, this team will look a lot better this season, but I'm not too sure they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs just yet. I've got the Bulls finishing 10th in the East at 29-43. They would qualify for the play-in game by finishing 10th, but regardless, I wouldn't favor them to win the play-in game. It would be a good experience for the young guys on this team though, as it would be the closest thing to playoff basketball that this young core has experienced. This season, it's got to be a year of experimentation for the Bulls. I think that they've got to really see if the Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter front court is legit and whether or not those guys can really play well off of one another. You know, last year they still weren't great together, but they were a lot better than they were the year before. That fit was a bit better, so hopefully they can take another step in the right direction this year and show signs of being able to play with one another. Wendell Carter, though, he's got to be able to stay healthy. He's just missed a lot of games so far in his career, and he's a really great player. He's got a lot of potential, so hopefully he can stay on the court and really give the Bulls enough evidence and show them that he should be a part of their future and that he can fit alongside Markkanen and Zach LaVine and Kobe White and all the young core that they have. So hopefully he can do that. And then I think the Bulls, they've also got to play Kobe White and Zach LaVine a lot of minutes together. Those guys are both great scorers and they have a lot of talent on the offensive end, but they've got to improve as defenders. I think there's a good chance that they do this year with Billy Donovan because, like I said earlier, I think those guys are going to buy in more to Billy Donovan's system than they did with Jim Boylen's. So I think that their effort on defense is going to be more consistent. And I think as long as those guys can be solid defensive players, not like elite defensive players or anything, but as long as they can be solid on that end, that's a win for the Bulls. So this year, it's just got to be about developing their young guys and seeing if they fit well with one another and all that. I feel like the Bulls, they just got to be patient. Like Zach LaVine, he's still only 25. Markkanen is like 23, and Wendell Carter and Kobe White, they're even younger than that. So there's no rush. I think they've just got to try to take it 1 year at a time, keep getting better and better. But I mean, if this year is another disappointing year, then at that point, maybe I consider making some trades because, yeah, last year, 2019-20, like I said, people were kind of expecting them to at least compete for a playoff spot, and they really let us down. And I mean, even the year before that, maybe not the playoffs, but people were expecting them to get more than 22 wins. So if they have another disappointing year this year where maybe they only win like 20 games and they're about the 13th seed in the East or something, and they really have no shot of, making the playoffs, then that would kind of raise some concerns for me personally. And then at that point, I think maybe they should consider, trading Levine or whoever and trying to make some moves there. But as long as they can get to about 28 to 30 wins, I would consider that as a success. Uh, if they can get that experience with the play-in game, that would be good too. And who knows, maybe they can, make a trade in the draft, try to get some more established veteran players with this young core, and just make some moves in general. Try to make the team a lot deeper and see if maybe the year after that they can make a playoff push. But as of right now, I got them as my 10th seed.